This is a pre-trip on A66. We're going to start by lifting up this hood and checking all of our fluids. There's a lever on each side of your fender. I did the other side. Just flip this up and then lay it down flat so it doesn't catch. If you come around here to the front, you're going to find a handle. Give this thing a pull and it'll come right up. In here, you're going to find a whole bunch of stuff. You're going to check your tires first since they're wide open. Stick your finger in there on each side. Make sure the tread comes halfway up your fingertip. Check all your lug nuts. Make sure all of those are tight. Take a look inside of your rim. And you can kind of see your rotors. Make sure they don't look all wavy. Look behind the truck. Check your steering linkages. Or your steering component. This thing connects to your steering wheel. You don't want this thing loose. There we go. Check your sway bar and your tie rods. Make sure all of those are tight and in place. And look at your shocks on both sides. Make sure you don't see any oil dripping down. Look behind the tire between the ground and the inner rim. Make sure you don't see any oil dripping there. That could mean a bad axle seal. Your power steering fluid reservoir is right here. You're going to make sure that's in between max and min. Your coolant is up by the radiator. You can't really see this thing, so you got to take the top off. Just make sure your engine is off and cold because this thing is pressurized and it's pretty hot. But you're going to kind of look in there and guesstimate where the fluid is. You want it kind of up here-ish. Your brake fluid reservoir is right there, just below the windshield. Make sure your cap's on and make sure the fluid's in between max and min. Here's your fuse box. Make sure this cover stays on. You don't want anything corroding. Down here in between the fan and the front of the motor, you're going to find your oil dipstick. We'll check that. You don't want that thing to be, you don't want your engine to be on when you're checking it because that's not good. So make sure you're checking it with your engine off and cold. You pull it out, you wipe it off, put it back in, pull it back out, and then here is your oil level, which is exactly where we want it to be. If you look on the dipstick, you'll find some information. It'll say full, which is in this hash mark. Of course, it won't focus. There we go. Full is in this hash mark, which is where you want it to be. If it's anything below that, you got to add 2 quarts at a time. Just make sure you're checking it every time you add. Right behind that, the little red dipstick thing right here is your transmission fluid. You're checking that while the vehicle is on and running, but you won't be able to hear me, so I'm going to check it cold and show you where it's supposed to be at. Come on, I just had you standing up. There we go. So when you're checking this, once again, make sure your vehicle is on and running. Pull it out the first time, wipe it off, stick it back in. And when you pull it back out, now you're looking at the level. This thing is telling me that it's exactly where I want it to be, which is good. When you're checking it when the vehicle is on and running, you want it to be in this hot zone. That's good. If it's anything below that, you got to top it off. I believe how you fill it is through the dipstick hole. So you got to stick a funnel in there. The engine oil fill is directly behind the engine dipstick, which is that black cap right there. It even says it in lettering on the cap. If you look on the driver's side fender, it'll give you some information what this thing takes. Allison transmission fluid, and when it's empty, it takes about 16 quarts of 1540. Come around to the passenger side. You're going to do the same thing with this tire and all the suspension components. I left out the leaf springs. Make sure those aren't cracked or damaged. Just above your passenger side tire is your washer fluid. Make sure this thing's always topped off. Believe it or not, it's a violation if you don't. In between the front of the motor and the fan, you're going to find your serpentine belt. Make sure that thing's not worn, damaged, cracked, hanging off one of the pulleys, etc. That thing can cause a lot of damage if it comes flying off. We'll go over a set of duals after we put this lid back down. And that'll knock out most of the list. Since we're on the driver's side, you're gonna see your diesel cap. This thing takes diesel. Don't put gas in it. Make sure this thing is on and tethered and tight. So twist it off. Make sure it's got that metal attachment. That thing prevents you from losing the gas or the diesel cap. And then you're gonna twist it back on and make sure it's tight. You don't wanna get anything in your engine or in your gas tank. Up here on your driver's side behind the cab, you're gonna find your fire extinguisher. Make sure that yellow needle is in the green and this pin is in the handle. That tells you this thing's ready to go. Just below that, you're gonna find this little box thing. You're gonna undo the cotter pin, take that little latch off, open it up, and you're gonna find this red box. Those are your triangles. You're gonna need those in case you have an accident or you get disabled on the side of the road. It's important to have, and it's also important to put this cotter pin back in so you don't lose it. Your duals, make sure you check both sides of your duals. You have 2 tires. You have to do the same thing for both. Check your treads, make sure you can stick your fingertip in there. Check your lug nuts, make sure all of those are tight. Look in between your duals, make sure you don't see any rocks in there. And check your leaf springs, make sure you don't see any cracks, once again. And then check on the ground in between the inner rim and the tire, make sure you don't see any oil dripping down. That could mean a bad axle seal also. If you come inside the cab, you should find your driver's log. Before I even get in here, your weight for this truck is located right here in the door jamb at 26,000 pounds. That's what you're looking for. I'm also going to check my seat belt. Just click it in real quick, make sure it latches, and make sure it stays latched. That's important. Your driver's log is right here, usually in somewhere in the driver's reach. We're checking off everything on this list. So we've completed this, and we've completed all this list. So right now we're just going through in-cabin lights, and then I'll talk about what you need to have on your person. While you're in here, take a look at all of your glass. Make sure nothing looks broken, damaged, or chipped, or missing. Check your horn. Your horn is located right here next to the steering wheel to your left. Push that in once you turn the key on. You gotta have the key on for it to beep, like so. Your headlights are located right here on this dial. Here's your parking lights and your headlights. Right here is how you control your wiper speeds. And then pushing it in, like so, controls your washer fluid. It may take a minute because it's a little empty, but it should be full. This also controls your turn signals. And if you push it away from you, your high beams come on. If you pull it toward you, your high beams go off. So we're gonna leave our low beams on. We're gonna turn our 4-ways on. That's this little black knobby thing in front of, or right behind the steering wheel. With your truck running, make sure you check all your gauges. Make sure, just look at them, make sure everything appears to be working normally. Just above your gauges, you're gonna find your truck height. You're gonna also need that information. On the dash in front of you, this little column down here, that is your heat and defrost settings. You're gonna have to make sure those work. Just turn them on, you know, standard. Up here on the top left corner of your console is your beacon switch. Give that a flip. We're gonna check those as well. I don't have much battery left in this truck, so I'm basically gonna run through whatever's on and I'll explain further what else you have to check before I lose battery power. Down here on the floor is your parking brake. Right now it's engaged. If you push it down, that's disengaged. How you can check that is you'd have it engaged, and then you'd put your truck into gear with your foot on the brake, of course. When your truck is in gear, you're going to slowly let your foot off the brake, and you're going to see if this truck moves. If this truck doesn't move after your foot's off the brake, then your parking brake works. And you're going to do everything in reverse. Put your foot on the brake, put the truck back into gear, and then let that thing back down. You just push this little handle in, or the little lever. Push that in. I know it's a little hard to see, so it's easier said than done. But there's a little lever on the side. You push it in when you grab the stick, and then you push it down. So come out, check lights. I'll also cover the mud flap because I forgot that. Close my door a little bit. So we'll go driver to passenger and then back around the other side of the truck. So on your driver's side, you have 3 lights to look for. 1, 2, 3. That's your turn signals / marker lights, and then your low beams, high beams. And it's mirrored on the other side of the truck. On top of your cab, you have some beacons and some headlamps. All of those need to be lit. On the front passenger side, you have a marker light. On the back passenger side, you have a marker light. And then all across the back, you have more marker lights, turn signals, brake and reverse lights. That little white light right here, that is your license plate light that needs to be lit. So if it's not lit when you get it, it means you got to replace it. You can probably find them at an auto parts store. Up on top are more beacons. Those got to be lit. Same thing with this marker light, driver's side rear, all the way up to the driver's side front of the bed. Those are all your lights. You'd go over turn signals, and then turn signals, low beams, high beams, brake and reverse. Those all need to get checked. Brake and reverse, you're going to need another person for. It's a lot safer that way. But turn signals and low beams, you got to check them all out. So we're good on this list. We checked all of our fluids and oils and all that good stuff, and we walked around. Oh, I forgot mud flaps. We'll get out and check mud flaps. Thanks. Yeah. Your mud flaps are located behind your rear duals on both sides. You're going to want to make sure this thing's not dragging on the ground or too high up close to the bed. They prevent rocks from kicking up at cars. They're pretty important to have. So, your driver's items. You got to have your driver's license on you. You don't need a CDL for this truck. It's only 26,000 pounds. But you got to have your medical card on you at all time and your proper PPE. It's a spray vehicle, something along the lines of hard hat, glasses, hard hat, safety glasses, gloves, long sleeve shirt, boots, pants, socks, etc. Your toolbox will normally be located in the job box on the back of the truck. That's not required for DOT. That's just something we like to help you out with in case you have a breakdown. Make sure you get a good night's sleep and your brakes are already adjusted for you. This is where you put the 26,000 pounds located on the door jamb, GCVWR, gross vehicle weight rating. And your vehicle height, remember, is right in front of you at 10.6. That is where you put that. Down here in this box, you're going to put anything that's wrong with your vehicle, lights out, anything like that. And then you get to sign your life away. And I hope you have a productive work day.